sometimes a technician may get in their head that just because they might not be able to afford something right now doesn't mean the customer can't, no matter what it is. If you explain the job as you go to the customer, it makes it a lot easier at the end. If you're saving it up and then coming up to the end, it's going to be very difficult for a technician because now you're laying everything out and the customer's going to doubt that they need all of that stuff.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your hosts, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your hosts Nate and Brian are hanging out with you, and this time we're looking forward to covering the basics of a service call. We are joining a conversation with Greg McAfee today. He is going to be sharing with us his ideas of what makes a service call go well, and man, is it something we need right here before summer. But before we do that, we're going to break down the idea and turn to Brian for our quote.
If more information was the answer, we'd all be billionaires with six-pack abs. Derek Sivers.
I like it.
Yeah.
As somebody who definitely has six-pack abs.
Somewhere down there.
Somewhere.
Yeah. I'm a billionaire somewhere out there in the future.
I just haven't recognized the full potential yet.
I can actually feel at least 4 of the 6 in mine here somewhere. Wait a minute. Let me push a little. There we go. There we go. There's one anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, the only way you get abs is by working out, and the only way that you get better is by practice.
Yeah, and why did I choose a quote with more information? Greg McAfee is our, well, I'll talk about it on the show, but as our buddy Gary Singleton told us, a real OG of the industry, someone who knows the ins and outs and measurables and how to do and train other people to do things right in their service truck and as a manager or owner of the business. And it's the basic steps. It's just the basic process. There's nothing magical or no reinvention of the wheel or fire in there in what he teaches. But if you do it all right, you're going to be all right. If you follow the process and the steps, you're going to do very well. In a service truck, you're going to make a lot of money. You're going to serve a lot of people who know your name and beg the company to get you back out. Maybe you're a solo entrepreneur and running the calls yourself, but this is how you brand yourself, by just following the process and doing things right. There's no magic pill. There's no magic sauce. It's just getting up every day and doing, improving on your process every day and doing the right steps at the right time. And it's coincidental. It's not actually planned, but we're here at this organization. I'm doing Wednesday and Thursday training every morning for all of our field staff, including installers, on process, like starting off in the right spot, which includes mental end zone preparation and where you park and how you approach the door, how you speak to the client, how you present options, how you run the call. For us, this is electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. And it's all basic process stuff that, I've been learning since 2004 and that has been developed, long before I got there. And just every month and year it gets added to and always working on perfecting it. And I have my own spin on everything I teach and my own brand or version of it that was beneficial and successful for me running a call. And maybe it's all based on my personality, probably. I'm not a textbook guy, so I can't just read a book and then follow a process. I really have to make it fit my personality. So that's what we're going through right now. It's just the basic steps, the basic process, something that everybody needs, whatever you're doing, right?
Absolutely, Brian. And the basics is always something that it's so easy to overlook, especially as we head into what is probably going to be a busy summer for the home services industry. No matter if you're a plumber, an electrician, or an HVAC tech, the summer always seems to get things going. And it's the easiest thing in the world to forget the basics. And you get caught up in something, or you start shortcutting your process, or you start dropping things out, leaving them out, forgetting them, just blitzing through them faster than you know you should. And you end up in a place, as our buddy J Dub says, you take your process, cut it up into a billion pieces, throw it in the air, and you got confetti, but you don't have a process anymore, right? And so that's something that we want to be cautious of, and caution you as the listener out there to be mindful about, and to be returning to what your process should be. And if you don't have one, today's episode will give you quite a few ideas as to how you can begin implementing that. And we're really looking forward to breaking that down.
Yeah, and we do love the trainers in our industry who train technicians to run calls the right way, and how to sell, and how to approach the client, and how to present, and how to close, and how to overcome objections. And we do a lot of that ourselves here, but we're always fans of people who are training people to do it better, and always recommend people seek that kind of thing out. There are tons of resources in the trades here, not to mention like franchises like the one we're a part of that will take you and kind of put you into a process. That's a definite shortcut to getting there, where you're rubbing shoulders with brands that are already doing it right, with organizations that are already doing it really well. And then you have the opportunity to go see them, and they can come and see you, and you have consultants that visit your shop and help you see your way through these things. But one way or the other, all of that is mentorship and learning to do these steps and learning these processes. And everyone's is a little bit different, but they all boil down to the same stuff. It's all fast forwarded as soon as you find that mentor and get involved in some kind of mentorship process, be it a trainer, a franchise, a buddy who owns a shop, near yours that's maybe not in the same market. And you get around people who are doing it a little bit better, and it's the best way to figure out how to do it yourself.
And this is an episode that's going to help you figure out how to do it yourself. But before that, I'm glad you said that, Nate, because I wanted to read one of our awesome reviews that we got here recently. Well, this one's... Can we get some plumbers, for crying out loud, reviewing the show? It's a lot of HVAC guys. Listen, plumbers, I know you guys are 97, 98% of our audience, all right? So can you start reviewing like that, please? Thank you. Brian's going to start stealing phones here shortly.
I do. I'm driving down the street. I see someone on a cell phone. I throw a quick Liu Kang drop kick. I pick the phone up and download the episodes, all of them, and rate the show. But I'm going to have to start naming them plumber. Let's see. HVAC assassin. Oh, sorry. HVAC assassin.
Spelling's not the forte.
HVAC assassin. All one word. I like the name. That's pretty cool. Said, let's get it. 5 stars. These guys hit it hard. Oh, I'm sorry. These guys hit hard with guests that keep me wanting to be better. A man of few words, HVAC assassin. But we appreciate the review and appreciate that this podcast keeps you wanting to be better. To be frank, it definitely keeps Nate and me wanting to be better. And we've had some really cool guests on this show.
Yeah.
That push us to be better versions of ourselves. And I know Greg is going to be no different. He's very process-oriented, and he's been in this trade a long time. And I love these episodes where we actually get actionable advice that we can use in the business here to be better leaders, as well as, podcast hosts, of course.
Absolutely. And with no further ado, we're going to put Greg McAfee in your passenger seat. Our guest today is Greg McAfee. He is a true entrepreneur and has a passion for helping fellow HVAC business owners take their business to new heights. In 1990, Greg started McAfee Heating and Air with $274 and a used truck. Today, Greg runs one of the most successful HVAC companies in the Midwest and is called upon to share his expertise with other business owners all over the United States. He is the author of the book, It's Your Dream, and he has helped entrepreneurs teach their teams how to act like an entrepreneur and boost productivity in the process. Greg McAfee's company, McAfee Heating and Air, has soared from number 450 to number 1 in their residential market. With that, welcome to the show, Greg.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we've never actually spoken before, but our buddy, Nate, and my buddy, Gary Singleton, who's been on the show before, don't remember what our conversation was about 2 weeks ago, but he said, you need to get a real guru on like Greg McAfee. And we didn't have time to go into what he meant by that, but I was hoping maybe you could help us out and tell us what that means. And then talk about what we're here to talk about, which is, creating a technician scorecard as a technician. Absolutely.
I have a heart for technicians because I used to be one. And there came a time when I was working for another company, and I've had my own company now for 32 years. But there was a time when I worked for another company, and I just had a knack for greeting people, being honest, and people liked me. And you got to be liked as a technician, to where at one point I was out selling their main salesperson. He wasn't too happy about it, but I just asked good questions, and customers, gave me good answers, and they ended up going with a new system. So we'll talk more about that. But I employ technicians. I still help train technicians, and we do a lot of internal training, not just technically, but soft skills, and a lot of other different skills that a lot of people don't think of.
That's fantastic. We're always looking to improve our listener base, which is primarily HVAC technicians, plumbers, and electricians. Do you cross over into plumbing and electrical as well?
I do not, but I help train plumbers and electricians. But my baby is HVAC, and that's what we do. We've been doing air duct cleaning as well since 1993. But we do mostly residential HVAC.
Excellent. Well, Greg, we always enjoy getting to know our guests a little bit. So obviously you're doing a lot of consulting right now, but what got you into that whole thing? Talk us through your story and how you got into the trades. We'd love to hear about it.
Sure. Well, I'm originally from Mansfield, Ohio, and I live in Dayton, Ohio right now, so it's just a couple hours south of Mansfield. And my grandfather and my dad both ended up retiring from Firestone Tire and Rubber Company. And there was a big plant in Akron, Ohio, and my dad got transferred from Akron to Mansfield, where he worked there for, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years. And then Firestone owned the Dayton Tire, which was right here in Dayton. So they owned a huge warehouse facility. And I was 19 years old. College wasn't in my sights. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I was working 2 jobs, hard worker, but didn't know what I wanted to do. And my dad said, hey, if you want in at Firestone, I can get you in. Only 15 guys are moving to Dayton, and they're going to hire over 100. You'll be number 16. I said, I'm there. So at 19, I moved to Dayton. Never been to Dayton, Ohio, moved to Dayton. Started working at Firestone, started doing some pretty cool stuff, loading tires, unloading tires, kept me in great shape. Broke a lot of records as far as how much time it takes to load a truck, just for the heck of it, at 19, 20, 21. But then I started looking around at older guys getting up and down off forklifts, and I thought, I really don't want to do this the rest of my life. So I actually joined the Marine Corps, and Firestone held my job. So I served 2 years in the Marine Corps. I came back to Firestone, and while I was in the Marine Corps, it was just kind of a strange thing, but I took a refrigeration class just for like a CEU credit, and I liked it. And so when I got out, I came back to work at Firestone. I worked during the day, and then I went to heating and air school at night. And when I graduated heating and air school, I left Firestone and took a 50% pay cut to get into heating and air conditioning.
Wow.
So that was the one advantage to Firestone. They were part of the United Rubber Workers, and even though they stopped me from breaking records, imagine working for a company where they say you're not allowed to post any KPIs or any record numbers on a bulletin board. So, but it did pay well, and I took a 50% pay cut. So I tell guys today all the time, sometimes you got to lose money to make money. So I went in at a really low amount per hour because I knew eventually I was going to work my way up. And I started as a helper. I learned I was a small company, so I learned the ropes, basically. I learned how to install. I gradually learned how to service and troubleshoot and do maintenance and all that kind of stuff. And about a little bit over a year into it, he called me into his office, and he basically said, "I'm going to have to let you go. You'll never make it as a mechanic." So I don't know. I just found humor in that. But I then went to another company, and they put me in their service department. They gave me a couple more dollars an hour, and that's the company that I started. In the service department, I was able to go into a home and be myself, one-on-one, talk to the customer, ask them a few questions about their system. And I'll tell you, the best question even today is, I noticed this thing's 12, 14 years old. Have you folks thought about replacement? And if a technician would take anything away from this, that's probably the best question you could ask a customer, and then you just shut up. And they're either going to say, absolutely not, I'm going to run this thing till the wheels fall off, or they're going to say, we wondered how long they last, or it has been costing us more, or it has been making a noise, or just hasn't been heating and cooling like it used to. Which would lead to, here's what we can do for you, here's what the new ones do, which would just basically lead to a sale. So I found out I was pretty good at sales, and growing up, I had, in my day, we had paper routes. We actually had a vegetable route where I'd go door to door selling vegetables, carrying baskets full of vegetables. And I got good with people. I mean, I got used to going door to door, collecting for the paper route, delivering papers, vegetable route. So I just got used to talking to people. And that's really, as a technician, that's probably your best skill outside of having a technical skill, is just being good with people, because a technician can see anywhere from 4 to 10 customers a day easily. Just depends on how your company operates. And that's just a lot of customers in a year. And we say my company is called McAfee Heating and Air. And at McAfee, the number one reason people call us is they trust us. And we're all about integrity, doing things right the first time, caring about people. And our culture is very strong, how we do things. We're very team oriented. We're very consistent in what we do. And we've always tried to be more innovative than anyone else. So as I started selling more, like I said, the salesperson, they had a full-time salesperson, and he just wasn't happy because the owner of the company started sending me out because I had a better chance of selling it than he did. So unfortunately, the company didn't handle their money well, and it wasn't too long. They laid me off. They closed their doors. And about that time, I got married, bought a home, and the same year I started a business. And I just applied the same principles that I learned along the way of being a technician and going into homes. I just started going door to door and knocking on doors and greeting people and asking them if they had a heating and air conditioning company they were happy with. And if they said yes, I moved on. If they said not really, then I stopped and talked. And sometimes it would lead to a service call. I had my truck in the driveway. I had everything with me. I was in uniform. I had a business card. And so it just gradually took off. Extremely slow growth, especially in today's world.
That's about as slow as growth does if you're going door to door. And while that sounds grueling to probably anyone listening right now, man, that's determination. I can't imagine, like, you know, every company gets slow to the point where someone doesn't have a call to run on some days, you know, particularly in the HVAC industry, the shoulder seasons, but you can get around the time of school getting out if it's not too hot, where any of the companies can struggle to have calls on the board from time to time. And I can't imagine a service tech just getting out and going, well, I got nothing else going on. I'm going to go door to door to find out if people have a plumber that they're satisfied with. And if not, here's my card. You know, let's chit chat for a little bit. I love the determination there and the real, I'm going to go make this happen mindset.
Yeah, especially when you're extremely driven, because when your wife goes to work and she comes home and your truck's in the driveway, it leaves you feeling worthless at times. It really does. So I would, if I didn't make things happen enough to where I had something to do, if she got off work at 4 o'clock, about 3:30, I took off for at least an hour, so I wasn't home when she got home. That was just my way of thinking, that I felt better. But I would go door to door. I'd also go door to door, like shopping centers. You know, has anybody serviced your rooftop units? A lot of times they'd need a filter or a belt or something like that. And then back then they had something called a crisscross directory. It was just a big, thick book, and it had everyone in your area code in it according to address. So you could start and go all the way down the whole street. And if you were lucky, you could call, and everybody had a landline back then, so you were calling landline. And if you were lucky, you know, you'd make 100 calls and get one service call out of it. And, but that's what I did. You know, you do what you got to do. And that's why today when I coach service technicians, because a lot of service technicians think they want to own their own business. And a lot of them have always had a dream of doing so. And that's great. And that's wonderful. And if they come to me and want a job, and I say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And they say, I want to have my own business. I hire them because I know I'm going to have them for a good 3 to 5 years, because they're going to want to learn everything they possibly can from me in 3 to 5 years. But having your own business is not for everyone. And it takes a tremendous amount, especially in today's time, with all the regulations and all the licensing and all the expectations of a company today. It just takes a tremendous amount of work. And the salary for a good technician today, whether you're HVAC plumber or electrician, is at an all-time high. And you're going to make a lot more money being a great technician than you probably will for the first 5 years being in business. So everybody needs to think about that. How bad do I want it? So I never talk anybody out of it, and I never try to talk anybody in it, because it's a different world when you're in it, and most people fail within the first year because they just didn't realize how hard it is. So fast forward, we're in Dayton, Ohio. So it's a small, it's considered a small city in Ohio, rather. And we were number 489 out of 489 companies when I first started, and we gradually worked our way to number one in the Dayton market, in the residential market. And somewhere around 15 years ago, I just started writing articles and sending them to national publications. And a couple of them really liked my articles, so I just started writing articles, which led to, hey, do you do any consulting or coaching? And hey, do you hold any seminars or boot camps? So being in the Marine Corps, we titled it the Greg McAfee Business Building Boot Camp. And we have sent, several hundred business owners through it. And we also had a division of where a technician comes with them and they spend time with our service department while they're here. So we've done some pretty cool stuff, and, we just try to help people achieve more and do more than they think they're capable of.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I believe that's now called Greg McAfee HVAC Business Coach. I was just looking at your website here. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Excellent.
It is.
Yeah, it's very exciting, Greg. And I mean, shoot, the industry can always use high quality teachers, coaches, trainers, speakers, and mentors to keep developing it, especially as so much young blood keeps coming in, which we're really excited about. And we'd love to see more of. Do you offer anything for people that are, just getting into the industry, like any type of apprenticeships?
Yeah, we have an apprenticeship where we partner with a community college that has HVAC, and so we put them through a whole program where they attend school. Both here we have kind of like a McAfee University, and they attend school at the college here, and they're out in a truck as well. So they get to learn 3 different ways, and they learn 10 times faster than just going to the trade school.
I love it. I'm sure that means that your own personal business keeps well staffed with technicians.
We do, exactly. We have a program. If they stay so long with us, we pay 100% of everything, and they get paid, to attend actually, because they get a salary to work.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What an opportunity. Well, Greg, we want to turn the light now on people who are already in the trades and trying to make their way, and specifically the ones that are trying to get better. Our podcast is specifically designed for people behind the wheel to listen to in between calls. I mean, that's really what we're aiming for here, because there is so much road time, windshield time, whatever you want to call it, that our people have to go through on a daily basis. Why not fill it with the opportunity to make yourself better? And so I think your line of coaching lines right up with that type of mentality. And so we want to jump in there and ask you, where would you start? I mean, I'm sure you're getting people of all different flavors and skill sets and even mentalities as to where they are in their career. Some people are like, hey, Greg, how can I get better? And the next person's like, hey, Greg, I'm not sure I can keep on going here. So how do you blend together all those different types of people listening to this podcast, people that you interact with, and where do you start?
Sure. Well, let's start with the technician who is a decent technician and just wanting to know, how do I improve? How do I make more money? How do I provide for my family better? And even how do I balance, if we want to touch upon, how do I balance my work and my family? So if I were a technician, the first thing you have to realize is find a company that you fit in their culture. And I teach a lot about culture, and the best way I can explain culture is if you're married and both of your parents are still living, you have Christmas and Thanksgiving at one family, you have Christmas and Thanksgiving at another family, and most of the time they're completely opposites in how they do things because that's their culture. Right. You don't mix culture. You're not going to go over here and open gifts like you do over here. You're going to do it the way they do it in their home, and that's culture. You get used to it. And every company has a culture, and every company culture is almost different. So you find a company that fits your culture. And when you do that, you're gonna be a lot more successful at being a technician, because if you can fit in the company culture, you're going to succeed there. You got much better chances of succeeding. So the first thing is, fitting in the culture is just look at it as prosperity, because that is one of the hardest things for a technician to do. They get a job, they're a technician, they've got great skills, but they're in a culture that doesn't fit them, and it's not a healthy situation, because they're clashing with the company. And if you're gonna enjoy prosperity as a technician, you've got to fit in well, and you really can't even fake it. You can fake it for a while, but eventually it catches up with you. You're just not going to be as successful there. So I'm not telling anybody to leave where they're at or anything like that, but it's very important for a technician to fit the culture where they're at. And there's so many heating and air conditioning companies, and so many plumbers today, and so many electricians today that find your culture. And the advantage of being a tech.
That is kind of half the story. I fully agree. Where if you get in somewhere that's a very established culture, and maybe you're super happy-go-lucky, and everyone around you is a hard A-type personality, that it's all business all the time, or a really negative culture for that matter, where everyone is just out to get each other and bitter, and it starts at the top and bleeds down. That's probably a place you need to get out of, and you need to get out of fast. But I do think there's the smaller organization culture, just the maybe 3 to 5 person team, where one person can really affect a culture, can really start to change that culture, which is something I like to see more than the bouncing around. Now that's, kind of putting it into a bubble and taking out a lot of assumptions, but it doesn't always necessarily have to be bailing on that, culture, as I've just seen it myself, where even here at the organization that Nate and I manage, we've seen small teams start with maybe a negative or a poor culture, and one person come into that culture and just start turning things around by way of their attitude and deciding that they're not going to be a part of this negativity, which is just kind of another side of that coin.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. I think that starts with leadership as well, because I talk to all my technicians and tell them, if at any time you find yourself unhappy here, can you tell us? It's not necessarily our job to make everybody happy, but it is our job to provide an environment where they can succeed and enjoy their work. And we want to know if they're unhappy, so we can figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and there are times there are sometimes we can actually do something about it. And at a
right
company with a good culture, you have leaders who will do something about it if possible. Now, not everyone is going to be made happy in every scenario, but in the vast majority of them, it is possible to do something about it, or at least make that person understand why what they're looking for isn't a fit for the place, or what have you.
Right. But unfortunately, there are also companies that people get into that the integrity is not where it should be. It's not as high as the technicians, and it's not going to be a good fit. But everyone can change their own world. You can. The best part about a technician is they're in their own truck every day. They see customers. They can choose the attitude they have, and they can continue to improve to be much more successful in their little world. And that's what we teach. We have a very strong team. We're very team oriented, and we're very competitive. We love to have contests, and we love to compete among each other, but we're also willing to step in and help someone when they need it. And if someone's got a call coming in on the other side of town and someone else is there, they volunteered, say, hey, I'll go ahead and run that, and stuff like that, which is just cool. That's a strong team. Another important thing for a technician is, which a lot of people take for granted, is appearance. And depending on the company you work for, if uniforms are required, if certain personal hygiene, certain things are required, a certain haircut, all those types of things. But as a technician, regardless of the times we live in, appearance is still very important because you're the image of the technician walking through the door. And when the technician walks to the door, you better believe the customer watched you pull up and they watched you through the curtain get out of your truck. And hopefully they're saying, oh, great, he looks trusting, he looks professional. And then when you come to the door, I mean, we have an entire class on the first 5 minutes in a home because that means everything. So, what your truck looks like, cleanliness of your truck, how you keep your tools, and how you keep your even your job site. We like to leave job sites around the furnace cleaner than what we found.
So, Greg, I'd like to stop you there because you said something that is near and dear to our heart. You have an entire class on the first 5 minutes in the home.
Yeah, you can't see us, I know, but Nate and I, we had to pick our jaws up off the conference room table here. When you say a class, you mean like a half day of a course, or?
It could be up to a half day, but typically it takes about an hour just to go through, role play a little bit. The first 5 minutes in a home from the time you pull in, we don't even pull in driveways. We'd rather park on the street if possible, because even though we have newer trucks, we don't even want the thought of our trucks leaking oil. So we're typically going to park on the street, which sometimes gives us more visibility anyway. And then we go up to the door. Do you have your card ready? Do you have an ID ready? Is your fly up? Is your shirt buttoned? Is your shirt tucked in? Are you wearing a hat with a company name on it? Have you shaved in a few days? I mean, all that type of stuff that goes into the first 5 minutes. You're being judged whether you like it or not. And they either fall in like with you right away or they're hesitant and even to the point where I don't even know if I trust this person in my house. I mean, that's the last thing you want. But it's entirely up to you and how you make the first 5 minutes of a call.
Absolutely. It makes all the difference, right? What the age-old adage there about what usually starts well usually ends well.
Right. And also being in charge of the call. That also gives the customer confidence. I teach, you want to set the customer up for success. If you've never been there before, let them know what to expect. So basically, here's what's going to happen. I need to know where the furnace is. I need to know where the air conditioner is. If you're available, there's going to be a couple times that I might call you down or call you out and have you look at something. Need to know where the thermostat is. Where do you put the shoe protectors on at? You never put the shoe protectors on before the customer opens the door. When we hire a technician, I go over the McAfee way. And we have a McAfee way of doing business, and it's just a card with the McAfee way on it. And I go over, it takes about an hour, and I go over the card. And I told him, this was just yesterday, and I said, you never put your shoe protectors on before they open the door. And he goes, oh, I know better than that. He said, I had that happen to me. He said, I had my shoe protectors on ready to go in, and it was during COVID, and the customer was like, did you wear them in someone else's house? How do I know you didn't wear those in someone's house? So he had to change shoe protectors. So when they see you put brand new shoe protectors on before you step in, it gives them the confidence of knowing you got fresh shoe protectors for their home. And, it just sets the pace for professionalism. So we go through all that kind of stuff and going back to taking the lead, this is kind of how it's going to look. You kind of go over how long it's going to take. If it needs cleaning or anything like that, it's going to take a little longer. Is that fair? That's a question we ask all the time. Is that fair? Yes. Do you have any questions for me before I get started? Nope. Okay, let me ask you a few, if I may, before I get started. Have you folks had any issues with the furnace or air, in the last year? Is there any noises? Are there any cold spots in the home? Your electric bill's higher than normal. So you go over a series of questions, and then if you get any, yes, we do have a problem, then you dive into it a little bit. You find out a little bit more, and you don't say you can fix anything at that point, but you're going to say, let us take a look at that. It might be something we can tweak. However, we won't know until we get a little further. So the first 5 minutes, it's not just where's your furnace at. I mean, it's much, much more than that. And we take it as a compliment when a customer calls in and says, I only want Jared to do my furnace check. I mean, that's a compliment. Now, doesn't always happen because of the scheduling, but we do our best to get Jared out there. And if Bob happens to go out, then Bob better make a good impression, just like Jared. So now they only want Bob or Jared. So I would challenge any technician to think about, what are you doing right? What are you doing wrong first 5 minutes of the call?
That makes a ton of sense, Greg. And as we train kind of the same thing here, that, that should be a Super Bowl commercial. That's kind of the phrase that we use around here. Many companies will advertise on TV or on radio, and they'll spend a couple bucks here and there to produce a TV commercial. But companies will spend millions and millions of dollars to have 30 seconds in front of a Super Bowl crowd's eyes. And that's the type of presentation you need to give in your first 5 minutes of showing up there at the client.
Yeah, totally agree.
But what does that mean? It
means
well-rehearsed, well-produced, well-acted, if you will, a well-written script. The directing has to be spot on. If you're going to pay millions of dollars for a 30-second ad, everything's going to be perfect. And you can make millions of dollars in this trade, as I'm sure you know, but certain things have to be perfect. And starting off in your career as a technician, the introduction to the homeowner is one of the very first things you need to nail. Although I will say probably that job interview is even more crucial, because you're not getting in the customer's home without that one. Maybe that's another episode, Nate.
Could be.
Yeah, and we don't spend millions, but we spend hundreds of thousands on our commercials, both for TV and radio combined. And they are on the Super Bowl at a local level. And they're as good, I think, as some of the ones that get on the national level, because everything matters. Everything matters as a company, and everything should matter as a technician. The technician's got their own little business in their truck, whether they work for another company or not. That's why I say culture's the key. If you fit in well with the culture, you're running your own business out of the truck, because you're doing everything the way the company wants it anyway. Now you can really get excited about it and add on to that. And a technician, I always set my technicians up as, for salary purposes. Now I use this carefully, but your salary is unlimited. The more leads you generate, the more customers you make happy, the more accessories you offer, your salary is unlimited. Your salary is much, much more than what you make per hour. It should be. It's not that way with every company, and I'm sorry for any of those that are saying, I wish I could do that.
We are too.
You can.
Yeah, and you mean commission or spiff type setup, but it's even more than that, is like the perks of being at that job. I mean, there are still some techs out there who don't get a take-home truck, who have to bring their truck back to the shop, who pay for their own gas, who have to lease their truck from the company.
Exactly.
or lease it from outside and just provide their own vehicle. So if you happen to be at a place where you get your own truck, that's still a huge benefit that doesn't exist everywhere. We get people in here to interview all the time. They're like, "You provide my truck?" We're like, "That's just a given here, you know?"
Yeah. Yeah, we have stories. We have 4 company meetings a year. We have them on Saturday mornings because it's the best time. We start at 8:00. We're done by noon 4 times a year. And it's the best time to have a meeting in the HVAC world. Even when it's hot, you can still fit a meeting in, but everyone's together. Everybody comes in a different kind of attitude, a different kind of spirit. They haven't worked all day. They're not tired. It is Saturday morning, but they also realize our meetings are to keep everybody on the same page, kick off any new things we're doing. And we also talk about, give some highlights of your personal life. What's happening positive in your life. And I mean, this goes on for 10 or 15 minutes of, we're having a baby, or my kid graduated, or my kid's on the honor roll, or, just goes on and on and on. Got a new car, got a new truck, did this, did that. Because we want to set the meeting off in the positive note. But we also have time. If I find out that a technician is sharing stuff that went on at the place they used to work that was just so bad and they can do it well, I'll ask them to speak during the meeting. Tell us about, how did you guys handle the place you used to work? I never mentioned names, but tell us about a place that you used to work. How did you guys handle it sometimes when you went to get gas in your truck? And this guy says, we never knew if the card was good. We'd go to the gas station with a company card, we'd swipe it, and it wasn't any good. And we were on empty. So we'd have to figure out how to buy it on our own money, then get repaid if we got repaid. I mean, and everybody's looking around going, you're kidding me, because fortunately and being blessed, that's never happened at McAfee in 32 years. The card's always good. So it's good for people to hear, because especially when you get people that have been at a company for a while, they just don't know any different. And then they eventually start to take it for granted a little bit. It's good for them to hear another side of things that comes from out of the mouth of a technician, who's been in the industry for a while, and they realize this is pretty cool here. They're setting us up for success.
Absolutely. And we always want to be doing that for the technicians, and kind of like taking it back to the technician. I'm sure that your team and the people that you're training appreciate that mentality. What else do you do to keep them motivated in the field? What are some ideas that you have to keep the culture positive and their experience as a technician, which is already an admittedly hard thing? It's hot, it's sweaty, you're dealing with angry homeowners. What are the things that you do to kind of push that out?
Well, a couple things. First of all, our sales team gives up part of their commission for leads. So it's not just the company giving a technician leads. The salesperson gives up part of their commission to the technician for providing leads, because it's that important to them. And when I sit down with a new salesperson, do you want, what's it, Mark Cuban's line, would you rather have, a whole grape or half a watermelon? They'd much rather have half a watermelon. So we set people up for success that way, so the technician and the salespeople become closer instead of distant. And then we also do the same thing for our installers. The sales team takes care of the installers by dropping off Gatorades and lunch and Snicker bars and all that stuff, keeping people, motivated and energized. And we also do that for the service technicians. In Ohio, we don't have the advantage of extremely hot weather like they do out west or down south. But when it gets hot here, and like this weekend, it's supposed to be 92, that's going to be our first hot weekend. We automatically have a table in the back with fresh fruit, cold Gatorades, cold waters, and we're sending out texts, keep what's it called? Keep hydrated, and when you stop in and drop off paperwork today, grab yourself some snacks, and everything's healthy. And we do that for about the first week of hot weather to get everybody used to it. So those are just some little things like that. Sometimes we'll wash each other's truck because we do have a system that trucks have to be washed a certain amount of times per week. Everything's clean. Everything looks nice as much as possible. So everybody likes to have their own truck washed by someone else. And also we provide, maybe bonuses via a really cool tool that somebody didn't have, and you surprise them with it. And, sometimes it's $100 tool. Sometimes it could be a $300 tool, but a technician, what do they like? I mean, when I was a technician and I talked to our technicians, they like gift cards to certain places. They like boots, cool work boots, and they like tools. And so those are what we aim for. And that's another thing. We find out with a questionnaire. We find out what people like before we just give them something. Because if your favorite candy bar is a Snickers, and I'm giving you Three Musketeers all day, you're going to be thankful, but nothing like a Snickers. And just those little things make a difference.
100%. And doing more things like that is what I believe is going to make the difference in the industry as far as where people end up working. I mean, that all those things that you mentioned there sound so refreshing and so encouraging for an employee who is going to have to go out and face some difficult things that day. So I applaud you and your team for making that effort.
I've also had the philosophy, and not everybody does, but I've had the philosophy of I won't expect you to work anywhere that I wouldn't work. And I'm pretty particular. So my technicians don't have to worry about going in rat-infested places because if it is, they're allowed to walk away. I mean, just walk away. Let's go to the next job. And if our sales team goes in to sell something, I always say, if you wouldn't go there at 2 a.m. in the morning in the dark, then we're not bidding on it. We'll pass. Someone else can have that job. So we try to say and try to do the McAfee way is it's just prime jobs. It's the prime jobs that we want, that we service, that we install, that we clean, air duct cleaning, all that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, a lot of guys are thrown into places that it's not even safe. And when things start moving, when the flashlight comes on, that's not a good place to be.
Right. Absolutely. So speaking of being back in the home where, things are moving or not moving, depending on why you're out there, what are some other emphases that you teach, preach, and deliver to your people and your coaching when they're in the home? So we've already covered the first 5 minutes. We've covered setting a good expectation at the front of the call. And now we're moving through and actually discovering what's wrong. What are kind of the next focal points that you put out there for technicians, plumbers, and electricians who are dealing with homeowners to be listening for and alert to?
Sure. Well, I'll go back to that. You have to be a people person, and you have to be good with people. And you can be an introvert or an extrovert and be a great technician. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about caring for a home like it's your grandma and taking care of the home like it's your grandma and then keeping them filled in. One little thing that we teach is you never go in and out a different door in a home. You always go in and out the same door. And no matter if it's around back or wherever it is, go in and out the door you came in. There's nothing worse than a single mom or an elderly woman being home and you're going in and out of doors she didn't know you were going in and out of. And that's not a good thing. You're trying to build trust. You want people to have faith in you as a technician and trust you. And so go in and out the same door. But you got to talk to people. You've got to fill them in on what's going on. I took a look at this motor. I went ahead and pulled this motor. If you notice, when I spin this blade, it doesn't spin very far. It hardly goes around by itself. What that means, it's probably, we try not to use terms that people don't use every day. So instead of getting into the high amp thing and all that stuff, with this being hard to turn, it's probably costing you more money to operate. And then you pause for a minute, and they'll naturally reach down and try to spin the fan blade, and it doesn't spin good. And they'll go, yeah, I see that. So you're educating them. Everybody wants to get the wow. You want that wow, and the wow is doing things that other companies have never done for the customer. Whether it's wearing shoe protectors or putting a blanket down or cleaning up better than when you left, or showing them more, educating them more, just how dirty this coil is. Let me show you this coil and how dirty it is. Having the right equipment to take pictures of things of a heat exchanger or of a coil that a lot of companies, a lot of times, when you get that second opinion where you go out and you condemn the heat exchanger with a crack or whatever, and then you got another company that says they didn't see any, and the customer says, what am I going to do? And we just say, we'll meet the other company here and we'll show them. And the poor technician came out with one of those mirrors that's not even a mirror. It's like the stainless steel thing that I used to use back in the early 90s, late 80s. And, we've got $1,000 camera, and it goes 3 feet up into the heat exchanger. And the technician's just looking at us going, well, no wonder you found it. So it's having the right tools, and keeping your tools clean. I always tell the guys, if you get that kind of customer that's standing over you and they're looking in your tool pouch or bucket, whatever you use, you want to see quality tools. You don't want to see nut drivers that are all worn down and, old drills that are all worn down. You represent quality. We charge accordingly. Try to have the best. The company, we do provide certain tools. The employees the service techs have to provide certain tools, but we're going to do our best to provide you with the best. You need to provide your best too, because this is your livelihood. This is what you do every single day. So,
Greg, focusing on that for
exciting.
just a second, I like the idea of the tools matching the quality of the performance. We speak a lot about that in terms of what does your truck look like, the psychology behind clean on the outside, clean on the inside, and all those types of things. So, clean truck, clean uniform, good looking tools that are new, modern, and not beat up. Are there any other areas that we as technicians can be cognizant of, what the homeowner is perceiving just by observing us?
Well, of course, you want good hygiene. That's very important. That's a personal thing, but it can also be addressed. Sometimes it has to be addressed. You have to have good hygiene. We allow facial hair, but if it gets to where it's straggly or just unkept, it's going to be addressed. And you just gotta look nice. We even have, here's what color t-shirts you're allowed to wear underneath our company shirt. Here's what color belt we want you to wear. And you have to wear a belt. Now that could be the Marine Corps in me. I don't know, but there's a way to wear a uniform that looks nice. And, all the technicians are required to take an extra shirt with them. Some even take pants, but if you happen to get down in a crawl space and you get all dirty, it's not fair to customer number 5 that you look terrible when you looked fresh for number 1. So I let people think about that, because a lot of people don't think about that. They're like, well, I worked all day, I'm dirty. Well, is it fair to that customer? Did you stop and wash your hands good before you went to their door? So just little things matter. And one of our sayings is everything matters, and the perception of value in a home has a lot to do with the technician and how they do things, and even asking the right questions, of just taking time with the customer and asking them questions. Are you comfortable? Are there any cold spots in the home. I mean, they might say right there, I've had my system serviced by such and such company, and they've never asked me those questions. And you just kind of look at them and nod your head. You just say that this is what we do. We want to make sure you're comfortable when we leave. If there's anything I can do to help your comfort, I want to do it while I'm here, or we can make a suggestion and you can go from there.
That and the what? They didn't ask you that? I wonder what else they're not doing. Huh. That's weird.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Gotta strike there and capitalize,
Yeah. We let them think that. Because that's what you do. I mean, why didn't they ask me that? So we just let them think. Sometimes you don't have to say anything to really draw attention to the weakness of another company. And I hate to say this, but I mean, our goal is to, when you're number one, you've got to stay number one, and you stay number one by doing things other companies don't do. And when you can get the customer to say they never did that, or I've had 3 estimates and and you're the highest, but nobody explained it better than you. Let's just do it. And we're the highest. So it's perceived value. Everything you do, it's perceived value. The trucks you drive, you probably watched a really cool commercial. I mean, I drive a GMC Denali, and I like almost every Denali commercial. GMC does a great job advertising Denali. I don't drive it for that reason, but I like the commercials, and it does represent the vehicle well, and it does get a lot of looks because it is a Denali with the grill, etc. So your company's the same way. The technician represents the company, and the technician should be paid extremely well if they do a good job representing the company, asking the right questions, getting good leads for the sales team, offering accessories, offering, repairs when needed, all that kind of stuff.
So Greg, as we kind of start bringing things in for a landing here, we're now beginning to be in front of the client, and, we're sitting down at the table. I mean, this is perhaps the most important time, other than right at the beginning of the call, that you're going to experience right then and there with that homeowner, and certainly one of the most intense times for technicians, because every word matters, every minute is ticking by, the heart is pounding, you're asking for money, you're telling some bad news, all these things are going through your head. How do we calm ourselves down and focus on the points that really matter?
Sure. Well, just realize, and what another thing we teach is sometimes a technician may get in their head that just because they might not be able to afford something right now doesn't mean the customer can't. So no matter what it is. And again, I have a whole class on people buy what they want to buy. I mean, if it's $100,000 car, if they want it bad enough, they'll figure out how to buy it, even if it puts them in debt over their head. If they want it, they'll buy it. And first of all, if you explain the job as you go to the customer, it makes it a lot easier at the end. If you're saving it up and then coming up to the end, it's going to be very difficult for a technician, because now you're laying everything out and the customer's going to doubt that they need all of that stuff. But if you showed them the dirty coil, if you showed them the rust, if you showed them the fan doesn't turn right, the blower wheel's caked, if you showed them all this stuff, then they're either prepared for a large ticket item, or they're prepared to get someone out and give them an estimate. And I know there are some companies out there that allow service techs to sell. We did that at one time many years ago when we were smaller. We no longer do that. There's no pressure for the technician. All he has to do or she has to do is ask the right questions, do their job, the procedure, and everything will flow well. So if you've done that throughout the whole job, then when you get to the end, You're just asking questions and showing them. Remember when we talked about the blower not turning or the fan not turning? Yeah. Okay, well, this is the price right here if you just want to replace that. However, this also needs this, and this. And I showed you that rust. That's just something to be concerned about. The unit's 14 years old now, and I don't know how much money you want to put into this. And it's probably a great time to ask. I mean, have you folks thought about replacing this at all?
When you say,
you just kind of go from there.
When you say service tech selling, for those not in the HVAC industry, you mean HVAC service techs having the ability to sell equipment replacement, not just repairs and upgrades?
Yeah, correct. Thank you. I'm talking about closing the HVAC equipment sale right there on the job. There's still some companies that do that. We're not necessarily a fan of it. We did it at one time. When we have designated salespeople, now the technician can sell parts, accessories, air cleaners, humidifiers, air purifiers, thermostats all day long. But when it comes to the equipment, get the lead, get it scheduled, and let the comfort advisor come out, or the plumber or the electrician come out, salesperson, and close the sale. So there is a lot of pressure on a technician if you've got a $2,000 bill and you haven't talked to the customer at all throughout the whole process.
Oh yeah,
it's not going to go well.
Yeah, and you are, if it's 14, 15-year-old equipment and you're turning it over to a lead, as many HVAC service technicians will do if you feel like new equipment is either the best option for them in terms of upgrading or will save them money in the long run. If you just walk up and say, I found all this stuff and here's why I think you need to replace the system, you got a little bit harder road to travel ahead of you than if you were all along the way to be showing them what you were doing. And you want to be building value throughout that whole process anyway. If you can have somebody be with you, whether it's plumbing, electrical, or HVAC, to let them see that you're working the whole time and that you're improving their system the whole time, and that everything you're doing along this process is for the benefit of their home and how they enjoy their system. That's building value.
Right. Yeah, I would say for technicians to think about this. Number one, informed people make better decisions. And number two, nobody likes surprises. So if you keep people informed along the way, they're going to make a much better decision at the end. And nobody likes surprises.
Nobody likes surprises, especially when they started the call that day, probably hoping to not even see you, right? I mean, unless you're doing a maintenance, if you're out there for a trouble call, whether it's a leaking pipe or, we're heading into summer here, just no cool, whatever it is, you didn't wake up wanting to see somebody that was going to be charging you money that day, much less have no idea and be totally surprised at the amount of money that it's going to be, which is guaranteed to be more than you expected. It's a difficult scenario, and you're walking us through there how we can help accomplish that in a better way.
Exactly.
Well, this has been good stuff.
Hope that helps.
This has been good stuff and helpful. And I think as we bring things in here, the one thing that we want to focus on as technicians is, of course, the repeat business. So when you are doing all the steps that you talked about there and you're taking care of yourself, you're making sure you smell good, look good, trucks are good, tools are good, you've done your great, 5 minutes at the beginning of the call, you've had an incredible conversation, you've been talking to the client the whole way through and inviting them, educating them along the way to hear all the things that you either are finding or have to offer to make their life better. And then you get to the end of the call and you have to wrap it up. I mean, you may have a pretty good relationship by then, but you have other things to do, and so do they. But it would sure be nice for us to continue this relationship, in the future. So do you have any tips or ideas about how a technician can effectively wrap up a call and ask for or secure return business?
Yes, and I also want to say a technician is a brand within a brand. a technician brands himself within the brand of the company. Going back to a good culture matters. So you're branding yourself throughout the whole call, and basically people do business with people they like. And you, as a technician, you want to be liked. So they like you in their house. They trust you in their house. We actually did a TV commercial where the customer is on his way out with his two kids, taking them to school, while our technician's walking in by himself. And the customer says, "Lock up when you leave," because that's the trust factor we have at McAfee. A lot of the calls we do, people aren't even home. So when you wrap up the call, though, you make sure you cover all your bases. Everything's covered. I've checked the system. I confirm that it's on. If you want to take a look at here, what this is running right now while I'm leaving, so they see it's running when you leave. And ask a few questions. How did I do? Is there anything I could have done better to serve you better? The first part of the word service tech is service. And that's what we do. We serve people. The better you serve people, the better they want you back, and they want the company back. Again, you're a brand within a brand. So you ask them, is there anything I could have done better? Is there anything you would like to have seen? Is there anything I missed? And then you ask for, you can also ask for a referral. I used to personally always say, please tell your friends and family about it. And when I actually asked my team that one time, my service team, I asked that, and nobody was doing that. And I'm like, you got to have a line on your way out. Please tell your friends and family about it. And I didn't even go into this about asking, where'd you hear about it? Because that's just as important for a service tech to know. Because if they might say, I've seen you on TV. Well, that's great. That's wonderful. But we ask the second question, where else did you hear about it? And then they go, oh, well, my neighbor uses you. Well, which is more valuable? They're both valuable. Well, which is better to know? Your neighbor. I mean, that's the guy that talked us up or talked you up and got you to this house. So there's a lot more to talk about on that, but it's just asking, please let us know if you need anything, give us a call, blah, blah, blah.
And where does the review come in there, Greg? I mean, we focus so much on the modern way of securing business is the review, because that's essentially the who else would you like, the referral, the digital referral, if you will. Do you bring that into the conversation?
I know we also tell them that they're probably going to be receiving something, either email or text, and because everything we do now is digital, and they'll just be expecting it, and they get sent a email or a text. It's very easy to click, are you happy, yes or no, and if they are yes, then it leads them to another page to click here to leave a review, and we got a pretty good percentage of people who leave reviews.
Well, we have enjoyed this conversation today, Greg. Before we wrap up with things, if people are interested in learning more about you, your company, and specifically your coaching and consulting options, where is the best place to connect with you?
The best place, you can find me online by just Googling Greg McAfee. But my personal email address is very simple. It's Greg, Greg, at mcair.com. mcair.com. Excellent. And the coaching, if people are you still offering classes for technicians? We have a couple individual classes going on right now where a couple people from other states just come here for a few days, ride with our lead service tech, and then we put them through like a 2 to 4 hour class and go through some of the stuff like we talked about today on the importance of the first 5 minutes, then all the way through a call.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Well, Greg, as we close it out here, the final question that we wanted to propose to you is surrounding those who are considering getting into the industry. as you look at over your years of experience in training and being a business owner and being a technician yourself and all these things, if you can look back and you can kind of speak to the next generation and say, this is what the trades are about, or this is why I think you should get in it, or, any of those things, what would be your message to those considering jumping in?
It's just a great place. So many parents push kids into college who are not college material. That's why 50% of freshmen drop out of college. Not everyone's college material, and you should be proud if you're not, and proud if you are. If you're wanting to work with your hands, wanting to work with people, heating and air, plumbing, the trades are just so strong right now to get into. Every heating and air conditioning company I coach is hiring. It pays well, and the better you learn your job, and better you serve people, it pays better. But the trades just have opportunity that most industries do not have right now. And I recommend going. We actually have a scholarship program where we've now given. It's called the You Can Count on Me Scholarship Program, and it's all about why can we count on you is what we started it for. And we've given over $300,000 to high school seniors. We do 10 a year, who they have to go through. I mean, we have a panel of judges and everything like that. We get over 300 or 400 applicants, and we give 10 scholarships away to either college or trade school. And a good portion of the kids are going into trade school, which is pretty cool lately. So anyway, we're pro trade school, of course, but we're also letting high school kids know that, make your own choices. I know a lot of families where the first child's a doctor and the second one's an electrician. So make your own choices. Do what you're best at.
Which one had more school college debt? Just asking for Nate here.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Have you ever seen that chart where, a trade, the guy that even 4 years of college, the trade guy is so far ahead, even, after 10 years, so far ahead of the college guy. So, there's nothing, you should be proud to be in the trade nowadays, and especially with all the professionalism there is. We've raised the bar. I like to think we raised the bar. A certain handful of customers in every area raised the bar, from keeping trucks clean to professionalism to shoe protectors to winning awards and best places to work and integrity awards. And it just continues to raise the bar in the industry, because if you don't raise your own bar, you're going to be out of business, because people expect too much nowadays.
Yeah, days gone by, the two guys in the beat up pickup that leaks oil all over the driveway. People would just rather pay a little more and get a much higher level of service at this point.
Right.
That ship has thankfully kind of sailed finally and is continuing to sail. And another thing is that this is what this show particularly is all about. We don't sell any services on here. We don't do commercials on here. We do have a large audience now, thankfully. And we have a large audience that is not in the trades. We hear from them constantly, of people who are not even in the trades, who just enjoy the show and the hyping that we do of the skilled trades. And our message here is clear. It's trade focused, but it is geared also to people who are not in the trades, to say that this is a cool place to be. It's an increasingly higher paying place to be. And at this point, there isn't much in terms of school loan debt to take on. You can apprentice somewhere without even going to a school. And,
right.
I'm one of them. I didn't graduate from high school. Got a GED when I was 32, but I'm in the trades, so I didn't necessarily need that.
Good for you.
Well, our guest today has been Greg McAfee. It has been a privilege to have you on. We appreciate you and what you're doing for the industry and sharing that with us today. So thanks for being on the show today, Greg.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed that episode with Greg. It was great to hear from him and all the things that he's doing. A lot of takeaways there, even the simple stuff, the nuggets that you can pull out of there and apply into your day, whether it's that 5 minutes in front of the door at the in the foyer with the homeowner, or making sure that you're looking good, smelling good tools, all those things along the way, to the presentation, to the clothes. A lot of great takeaways there, and that's universal. In fact, I don't think there was much of anything that we discussed today that is HVAC centric. It's really across the in-home services industry, whatever you're in. And we hope that this podcast is benefiting you, even if you're not an HVAC tech, a plumber, or an electrician. We want to encourage you to continue pressing forward with wherever you are. There's always a ladder. There's always a place to get better. And that's one thing that we want to focus on. Our challenge to you is what it always is, which is to wake up every single morning and look yourself in the mirror and say, this day is going to be different because I'm going to choose to waste no day.